Hello there you beautiful people, and in this video you're going to begin to use the command line to move around your Linux file system. Very exciting stuff. Now once you learn the techniques that you'll learn over the next few videos and begin to use them for your everyday tasks, you'll begin to find that they are faster and more effective than the graphical point and click methods that you are most likely using right now. So in this video you're going to learn how to use the pwd and the ls commands to know where you are on your file system and what is around you, and by the end of the video you'll know where you are on your file system and what's around you using the command line, and you'll be ready to start moving around using some other commands that I'll show you in the next video. So I hope you're very excited. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so here we are in the terminal. Now the first thing we'd like to know when navigating the file system is where we currently are, and the shell already tells us this. Over here on the left you'll see a bunch of text that is known as your shell prompt, and the shell prompt is everything up to this $. Okay, now let's break it down and show you what each bit means. First of all, it tells you the user of who is logged in, which is Ziad on this computer. Then you've got an @ symbol. Okay, then you've got the name of the computer, which is VB. We called it this when we set up and installed the virtual machine, and VB is short for virtual box. Then you've got a colon, which is these two dots on top of one another, and then you have this squiggle that's called the tilde. Okay, now in the bash shell, which is the shell that we're currently using, that tilde, that squiggle, is a short way of representing the current user's home directory. So whenever you see that tilde, whenever you see that squiggle, it just means the path to the current user's home directory. So our shell prompt is basically telling us that we are in the home directory for the current user, which we can tell is Ziad. Okay, so we can actually confirm at any time what directory or what location our shell is currently operating in by using the pwd command. Now the pwd command stands for print working directory, and the pwd command will just tell us the folder that our shell is currently operating in. So if I type pwd and I hit enter, we'll see the full path to my home directory appear, which is /home/Ziad. Now the path starts all the way from the root directory, the very base directory, which is the /, and works its way down until we get to the home directory for the user Ziad, which is me. Now we can actually see this if we click on our files, and that opens up. Now if you click on other locations, then click on computer, this will open us up in the very base directory. Okay, this is the base directory for the system. Now if I click on home up here, then click on Ziad, that is where we currently are in the shell at the moment. Okay, now because the path starts all the way from the base directory, from the /, it's known as an absolute path. So now that we know where we are and we know that our shell is operating inside of our home folder, how can we take a look around and see what's in the home folder? Well, first of all, we could do it using a graphical user interface. We could click on our files here, and that's automatically going to open us up in our home folder, and we can see there's folders such as a desktop, documents, downloads, pictures, and so on and so on. Okay. Now, to see something similar on the command line, we need to use the ls command. Now, the ls is short for list, and the ls command will list out our files in a directory. Okay, so if we take a look at the man page for ls, the manual page for ls, we'll see that ls can take a path to some folders. It says here file, it says list information about the files, which is the current directory by default. Now as a side note, ls does not accept standard input, so you can't pipe to it, and instead you need to give it everything as command line arguments. That's just an aside. Okay, so now let's try and use the ls command to see what's going on in our home directory. Now there's multiple ways to do this. I could do it the long way, and I could give it the full absolute file path. I could type ls/home/Ziad. Okay, that's the long way to do it. Or because I know that the tilde represents my home folder, I could give it a shortcut. I could do ls, then give it the tilde, and that's exactly the same thing. The tilde is just the home directory for the current user. It's just a shortcut. Or even better, because I know ls will by default list out the contents of the folder that I'm currently in, and because I'm in my home folder, I can just type ls. Okay? ls will by default list out the contents of the directory that your shell is currently in, and because we're in our home folder, I can just do ls without any command line arguments. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. So in there, now what's come out, we can see several blue words. Now by default, blue text from the ls command indicates folders. But to make that clearer, we can give the ls command the uppercase F option. So we put a dash and an uppercase F, and F is meant to mean classify, okay, with emphasis on the F, okay? So now when I do that, if I do ls-f, now we can see that the items that have a slash at the end are folders. Now if I just make a file in our home directory by echoing the word hello into it, I'm going to call it file .txt. So here we're using redirection to create the file. There it is. Okay, you can see this has been made. If I now do ls-f, we can see that the folders all have slashes after them and are in blue, but the file itself doesn't have a slash after it and its text is in white. So you can see that the ls command allows us to see the difference between files and folders, files and directories. Okay, but something to bear in mind is if I take that ls-f output and put that into another file called list.txt, okay, then I open up list.txt, you can see that there is no colouring, but you can see the difference between folders and files just by looking for the things that end in slashes. Things that end in slashes are the folders, and the things that don't are the files. So, you know, this is really good if you want to save the information to a file and be able to tell at a glance, or make a program tell at a glance what's a folder and what's not, so you can selectively operate on specific files or not. So it's just a cool little shortcut. Okay. Now, a much more useful option than the F option for the ls command is the L option. Now, if I do ls-l, actually let me clear the screen first. If I do ls-l, this puts everything in long form format, and you can tell here that we get a lot more information about our files and directories, including the file permissions over here on the left. Okay, anything that starts with a D is a directory. Okay, and then there's file permissions. So for the user, read, write, execute. For the group the user is in, the group being here is this column, the user is this column. So the user, read, write, execute. For the group, just read and execute, no writing. And for everyone else, just reading and executing. Then you've got the user that the file belongs to, the group the file belongs to, how large the file is, when it was last edited, and what the file is actually called. Okay, so this is the ls-l command is a command that you'll use probably very, very often, because you can get a lot of information about your files, much more than just using the normal ls command. The other thing I should mention is that this column here with all the numbers and the file sizes, this shows the file size in bytes. And to make that a bit clearer, you can give the ls command not only the L option, but also the H option. And the H option stands for human readable. It makes the file size a bit easier to read. So if we do ls-lh, we can now see that it's telling us that the desktop thing is about 4 kilobytes. This is about 4 kilobytes. This one is just 6 bytes. This is 93 bytes, and these are 4 kilobytes. If you had things that were megabytes in size, it would say an M. If you had things that were, you know, gigabytes in size, it would say a G. And in general, it just makes the stuff a bit easier to read. Okay, so that's the ls- with the L option. You've got the permissions on the file. So if it begins with a D, it's a directory. If it begins with a dash, it's just a file. The first 3 things are the permissions for the user: read, write, execute. The next one is for the group that the file is in. In this case, it just has read and execute, but no write. And then this third column is for everyone else. This is so just read and execute in that sense. This is the amount of hard links to the file, but don't worry about those. This is the user the file belongs to. This is the group the file belongs to. This is the file size in bytes. This is the date the file was last edited, and then this is the file itself. Okay, so I'll make sure that that information is available on the cheat sheet at the end of the section, but now you can start to see, if I clear the screen, that we can now use the pwd command to see where we are, and the ls command to see what's around us. All that's left to be able to understand is how to use the cd command to actually change where we are on the file system so that we can move about. But I think in the interests of time, we're going to save that until the next video. So in the next video, we're going to be covering how to use the cd command to actually change where you are on the file system, and also be going through a few examples to see how these 3 commands work together to help you navigate the file system much faster than would be possible using just pointing and clicking. So for all that goodness, I'll see you in the next video.